Welcome. This is the first ever episode of our Horror Explorers podcast, a podcast dedicated to bringing you information about the world's spookiest and strangest places. Tonight, we're going to be talking about one of our favorite holidays, of course, Halloween. So, let's begin. Halloween, as we know it today, is a fright-filled, candy-fueled night of parties, costumes, creativity, and mayhem. And though its popularity is growing worldwide, the reason it is celebrated and where it got its start still remains unknown to a lot of people. If you're someone who is under the impression that Halloween was created by candy companies to boost candy sales, you couldn't be further from the truth. It happens to be one of the oldest and most complex traditions still practiced to this day. So in honor of our most beloved holiday, we would like to take you on a journey to the birthplace of Halloween. I'm your host, Lady Lovesblood, and you're listening to the Horror Explorers, your tour guides to all things odd and macabre, because real life can be pretty creepy. So explore with us. Though the way we celebrate Halloween today comes from a combination of centuries of different practices, to truly appreciate where Halloween came from, we have to take you back, all the way back to the Stone Age, to a grassy hill in the Irish countryside. If you were to drive by it today, it might be easy to miss. It's only about 1,000 feet long and 800 feet wide, and sits beside an old church, the Church of St. Patrick. But this place is much more than a forgotten-about churchyard. It was once a sacred burial ground and political center for Neolithic pagans, circa 2,800 and 3,350 BCE. This place is known as the Hill of Tara, and it's located in County Meath, Ireland, just north of Dublin. The Hill of Tara may not look like much today to an untrained eye, just a series of grass-covered circles and a few oddly placed rocks. But archaeologists have discovered that just below the surface lies the remains of a henge, which, if it were reconstructed, would be larger than Stonehenge. So why is this place so special? Well, according to ancient Celtic beliefs, the Hill of Tara was a dwelling place for the gods and home to several passageways or portals that led to the world of eternal joy. You see, at the time, people believed that our world and the spirit world were only separated by a thin layer. And instead of a heaven or hell, they believed that the spirit world was located in a parallel dimension. Because of this, the ground surrounding the Hill of Tara was considered sacred, and many important meetings and rituals were performed there. In the middle of the hill stands a tall, solitary stone. This stone is known as the Stone of Destiny. It was said to have served as a coronation stone for the High Kings of Ireland, and that all of the ancient kings of Ireland were crowned here. Legend has it that the stone was brought by members of a semi-divine race, and it has mythical powers, including the power to heal the king. And when a new rightful king was crowned, his touch would make the stone scream or roar, letting out a screech that was so loud it could be heard by all of Ireland. Though a screaming stone may sound pretty creepy, it's actually not the birthplace of Halloween. That title goes to a little mound not far from the Stone of Destiny on the summit of the hill. It's about 15 meters in diameter and roughly 3 meters high. The top of the mound is the highest point on the hill. It offers panoramic views of the surrounding countryside. but it probably wasn't always that way. You see, the mound has had some adjustments over the last couple thousand years. It's actually an ancient tomb, under which is buried an estimated 500 bodies. This tomb is known as the Mound of Hostages, and it's the true birthplace of Halloween, though some would argue that that title should go to the Hill of Ward, but we'll get to that in a minute. I would like to take a moment to apologize for mispronouncing any of these Irish names. If you happen to be Irish and know the true pronunciations, we would love to hear from you. Feel free to send us an email or message us on Facebook. Layer upon layer, bodies were stacked in the passages under the mound. Most of them were cremated, and they are believed to be people of some significance. Artifacts such as grave goods, pottery, stone beads, and bone pins were found in the tomb. They were placed in the tomb and covered with stone slabs until eventually room ran out in the passages, and some bodies were even buried in the mound itself. Under the ground, the passages in the tomb are decorated with Mesolithic tomb art, patterns of circles, swirls, and X's that can still be seen by visitors today from outside the now gated entry. But what makes this site so special is not the people that were buried there, but the position of the burial mound, which was crafted so specifically that sunlight only reaches inside the tomb twice a year. You see, the entrance to the Mound of Hostages is a small doorway set about 1 meter into the side of the dome, with an alignment that allows the rising sun to shine down the passageway and illuminate the inside only on the mornings of Samhain, which is November 1st, and Imbolc, which is February 1st. Now, here's where Halloween comes in. In order to understand the importance of the 2 mornings which sunlight illuminates the tomb, we first need to talk a little bit about Samhain. Samhain was a pagan holiday and is essentially the same thing as Halloween, though the name Halloween came about much later, and we'll talk about that in our next episode. It was a festival akin to a harvest festival, and it was held on the first of a series of 4 quarter days. Of these 4 quarter days that happened throughout the year, November 1st, the date of Samhain, was considered the most important. It marked the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, or the darker half of the year, and was celebrated the night before on October 31st. The common belief and the root of the festival that still carries on to this day was that at this time, between October 31st and November 1st, the boundary between our world and the other world thinned, allowing spirits to roam freely. So on the night of October 31st, people would gather around the Mound of Hostages to celebrate, give offerings, and ward off any unwanted spirits to ensure good luck in the coming winter months. Sound familiar? Okay, maybe not exactly. We don't stand around an ancient tomb and give offerings of cattle to ensure our safety, but there are so many similarities between the way this day was celebrated and what we still do today. Beliefs and practices similar in nature have been adopted by many cultures and religions and are practiced all over the world. Some believe that on the night of October 31st, spirits of loved ones return home seeking hospitality and see it as a time to honor the dead. Others believe it means that evil spirits are free to wander on Halloween night and must be chased off by fire or candlelight. The people of ancient Ireland and Scotland believed in a type of spirit called Ishi. The name translates to people of the mounds. In Gaelic folklore, the Ishi needed to be appeased with offerings, and great care was taken not to insult or anger them. In order not to anger the Ishi, they weren't even spoken of directly by name. Instead, they were referred to as the good neighbors, fair folk, or simply the folk. This is likely the origin of the words fairy folk or fae. And as most of us already know, Fairy folk are known to be tricksters. The Ishi are often described as either stunning and beautiful or terrible and hideous. You can see this reflected in some of the other Celtic folklore, such as Selkies or changelings, or even leprechauns. This is where the belief that if someone shows up on your doorstep on Halloween, whether creepy or cute, you must appease it, or you may be in for a nasty surprise, or even worse, be cursed for the entire year. 12 miles from the Mound of Hostages at the Hill of Ward, the Great Fire Festival began on October 31st, marking the beginning of the Celtic New Year, and it lasted for several days. The fire was so large it could be seen from the Hill of Tara. The flames were said to be cleansing, the smoke would ward off evil spirits, and the bones of livestock were often cast into the fire for divination. Throughout Ireland, Scotland, and Britain, on the night before Samhain, people would put out offerings of food and drink for the Ishi, and places were set at the table and by the fire for the souls of dead relatives. Fortune-telling games and rituals were practiced to give insight into any deaths, marriages, or special events the coming year might hold. Dream interpretation was also popular, and so was bobbing for apples and having bonfires. Mumming or guising, aka dressing up in costume, was also part of the festival. It's said that people would go door to door in disguise and recite poems in exchange for food. There is still a lot of debate whether people were dressing up in costume to imitate the Ishi, or if they were trying to disguise and protect themselves from them. Now all of that does sound pretty familiar. You see, Samhain was celebrated almost exactly the same way we celebrate Halloween today, until Western Christianity shifted the date in the 9th century and added its own twists. But we'll discuss that next time as we explore Rome and the influence of the Catholic Church. So now you know, dressing up in costumes, bobbing for apples, handing out candy, partying around a bonfire, it's all based on the belief that October 31st was a night for spirits. And though Halloween has been around since before books were written, it's still special. So the next time someone asks you why you celebrate Halloween, maybe you should tell them that you're just trying to make sure that you're not going to be cursed for the next year. If you would like to visit the birthplace of Halloween, you can do so year-round. It's open to the public daily from 10 to 6 and will cost you about €5. You can find more information online by searching the Hill of Tara. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for more Horror Explorers pictures and updates. Or you can go to our website at www.ickersisters.com, where all of this goodness will be uploaded onto our blog. This episode of the Horror Explorers was written and produced by me, Lady Lovesblood, with help from my lovely sister Lenora Lovecraft. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, happy haunting.